Good evening, everyone. I'm David Johnson of Transform Ed Consulting. Welcome to our live chat every 2 weeks on YouTube and Facebook and other places. I'd like to welcome our guests. Marisa, how are you today?
Hello, David. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good too. It's a pleasure seeing you. And I would be remiss if I did not plug for Transform Ed Consulting and Educational Innovation 360 Degrees. And of course, I am the owner and principal for Transform Ed Consulting. And Cassandra Williams, my dear friend and colleague, is the brains behind Educational Innovation 360 Degrees. Now, let's formally introduce you, Marisa. Marisa Ortiz is Principal Consultant, Intercultural Talent, LLC, San Antonio, Texas, has been empowering individuals and organizations as a Gallup certified strengths coach for 10 years. Her expertise lies in crafting customized talent development, training, and coaching solutions for broadly diverse industries, including higher education. She has a track record of developing strengths based curricula tailored to the specific needs of university presidents, faculty, and students, and creating impactful programs for junior colleges that focus on soft skills, career management, and social justice. Ms. Ortiz envisions universities as vital centers for workforce development, research, and student empowerment through strategic cultivation of individual strengths. I am very, very impressed with your background. Tell us how you got here.
Thank you, David. Well, how I got here, I started consulting 10 years ago after having worked in the IT sector for quite some time as a facilitator and doing some international business as well. And prior to that, I also worked at a local nonprofit here in San Antonio for people with disabilities. And I also managed a grant training program for the community. And of course, prior to that, I was a university student in El Paso, Texas. But basically, after working in the nonprofit sector locally, getting a master's in international relations here in St. Mary's, and
Well, let
working
me ask you
for,
about that. Now, you
yeah,
mentioned
sure.
El Paso, and I
Yes.
understand you graduated cum laude.
Thank you. Yes, I did. A long time ago, I got my bachelor's degree in both French and political science, an honors degree cum laude, and
Mhm.
I graduated in 2002.
And I understand too that you were precocious, meaning you weren't the usual student age when you attended University of El Paso, University of Texas El Paso, UT El
Yeah,
Paso.
UTEP, we say UTEP.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. That's one way of saying it. I was 16 years old when I started my university, my college journey. Uh, I finished high school in Mexico, where I'm originally from. I'm from Torreon, Coahuila, in Mexico, in the state of Coahuila, border with Texas. And I just happened to finish high school 1 year earlier, and happened to be young when, back in the 80s when I started school, you could start first grade at age 5. And I was one of those students. And back in the day, like, parents would pride themselves because their kids were so young starting school. So I was one of those 80s babies that
Mhm.
by 16, I was in college. And I went to UTEP, and I also worked in campus to support
And
myself.
you and I share a common talent: singing, music, love for music. What is your involvement with music right now?
Thank you. Well, I sing in the shower. I sing all the time. No, but I a little bit more intentionally. I sit on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization in Austin, Texas, next door to San Antonio. It's called Anthropos Arts, and it's been around for 27 years, and it offers free music lessons and mentorship to middle and high school students in Austin, Texas. And we fundraise to be able to support these students who are a majority Latino and African American students in underprivileged areas of Austin, Texas. So that is my current investment in the community.
Well, Marisa, it's great having you here, and I know you and I will have a stimulating conversation on strength-based campus, building a skilled workforce from within. We have three agenda items or three bullets. Where would you like to start?
from the beginning.
All right. So our bullets are what are strengths, Clifton Strengths, and Strengths Finder, strengths based development, implementing strengths on a college campus. So, right at the beginning, what are
Yeah.
strengths?
Yes, Strengths, Clifton Strengths, formerly known as StrengthsFinder, is a talent development tool developed and owned by research company Gallup, based in Omaha, Nebraska. And it's basically a talent development tool where people take an assessment that measures their level of talent in the 34 themes of human talent developed by Gallup's research. And by discovering top five strengths, or sometimes top 10, or what we call all 34 reports, we're able to support people at the workplace in approaching their work the best way possible through their strengths, right? So it's a very popular talent development tool that came about in the early 2000s, in 1999, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
There are many strengths books. The first one was called Now Discover Your Strengths. And all of the strengths books at the back of it, they have like a little closed envelope with an access code, which is your code to go online and take the assessment.
So, could
So
you
it's
speak a
quite
little bit
popular.
about the Gallup organization? Now, I'm asking you because I've had some great experience with Gallup organizations, and I'm
Mhm.
curious as to how you found them and the training that you've had so that you could be a strengths coach.
Sure. Well, I found them when I worked in tech. I worked 8 years as a woman of color in tech, and at a company based from San Antonio, but a global company called Rackspace. And that company was already strengths based by the time I was recruited by them. And they already had a relationship with Gallup, not only in providing strengths codes to all employees, but also in measuring employee engagement, which is Gallup as a research company. They run a lot of qualitative research on the global workplace, including, of course, the United States, measuring engagement, work with a lot of companies on talent management initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how I became acquainted with Gallup as an employee first of
Mm-hmm.
Rackspace. At some point, I was out of my time there. 5 years, I worked in the HR department as a facilitator. And at some
Now,
point,
could
I
you
was
tell us
appointed.
how
Mhm,
Gallup develops its
mhm.
products, these
How Gallup
measurement
developed.
instruments?
Yes. Well, I have never worked for Gallup, so I sure don't want to speak unintelligently. But I do know, as of one of the coaches, I'm certified by Gallup in as a strengths practitioner, and I've been for 10 years now. That this is a research-based, scholarly approved. They run research and publish a lot of research papers and some many times books on the state of the global workforce. And there's a lot of research based on strengths and strengths based organizations and what it does to organizations, which is increase engagement, employee engagement, and many other what we call KPIs,
Mm-hmm.
key performance indicators, improve in organizations when they implement strengths as one of their tools.
Do you
So
know
mhm.
whether and not just whether, but how often Gallup updates its measurement instruments?
On a regular basis. Every single day, there are lots of people who are taking the assessment, and Gallup, it's a research company, that's what they do. So, excuse me, on a yearly basis, we get, for example, the 2025 State of the Global Workforce Report. So, which, by the way, I just got the email a couple of days ago. So, and it's open to the public, so anyone can join those Gallup webinars to get just nerd up on the data. It's always available
Mm-hmm.
there.
And all these events ensure that the instruments are valid from year to year, from industry to industry, and with various individuals who use them.
Exactly. As I said, it's the only talent development tool of its kind or assessment. Some other people may refer to it as a personality quiz or personality test, which we don't necessarily see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But based on all the other ones available, this is the only one that is scholarly approved, that
Mm-hmm.
is based on research.
Mm-hmm. Strengths, Clifton Strengths, Strengths Finder. What's the difference between those
Just
three
that
where they have similar names?
it was originally called StrengthsFinder. Well, after the publishing of Now Discover Your Strengths book, which was in 1999, their next book that was published it's called StrengthsFinder 2.0. That's the name of the book, and it's a little pocket book that's probably the most popular of the strengths books. That also has an access code at the back of it. So the name StrengthsFinder is such a wonderful name that it truly picked up as a tool. It came from the Silicon Valley in California, from the now Amazons and Googles. At that time, there were Yahoos, they were AOLs, they were called differently. But it does come from that sector of the business, of the workforce, and has expanded into higher ed, into the nonprofit sector, into corporations of different sectors, the government, public agencies, you name it. It's anywhere where people work. It's a workplace talent development tool. It's a very, very effective tool that, of course, we have brought to universities.
So now you mentioned higher ed. So let's speak specifically about higher education. In what ways could higher education, institutions of higher education, use the strength tools, these Gallup tools?
Absolutely. Well, this particular tool, Gallup CliftonStrengths, it is instinctively used in a lot of colleges, junior colleges, and universities for students to take the assessment. I really would like to clarify, because one of the myths of strengths is that anyone can take it, but that anyone has to be ideally 16 years old or older. So Gallup does have a different instrument for younger students. It's called Strengths Explorer, which I am not as familiar with because I focused on the workforce starting from college, right? So obviously for students is like the first in the most common way in which junior colleges and universities utilize StrengthsFinder for students to have that awareness of, what are their strengths, what are the talents that they use to function on a regular basis as a student, and therefore they will also use as workers. And
so at what
students,
point
course,
in the student's progress would a student take such an assessment?
Ideally should be during new student orientation.
No kidding.
Yes,
Immediately.
absolutely. In my humble opinion, serving different clients, yes, ideally should be freshman, new student orientation. Most definitely not during the admission, not at all, because this is not a talent, it's not a recruiting tool. It
Right.
should not be used as talent acquisition. So there should be no stress. It should be, the expectation should be set correctly, that this is an assessment and no one can flunk it, because students are over tested, at least in our country. So we want to, make sure that they know that there is no wrong way of answering this assessment. But
So
it's ideal to start your college experience with awareness of your top 5 strengths.
could
Yes.
you give us an example, whether hypothetical or actual, of how a student or a university use the Strengths Finder to direct the student's major and courses that a student would take while in school?
Well, I wouldn't say that StrengthsFinder, another myth is it is not a vocational tool. It
Right.
is a talent development tool. So it doesn't tell me or tell anyone what should they major in or what should they work on or what sector to work at. It tells us how they work. So
Oh, tell us more. Tell us more.
yes, so there are 34 themes of human talent that all of us humans have. And by taking the assessment, our talents are measured and we get our top 5 strengths or top 5 dominant talents. So those talents, by understanding what they mean and understanding the basics of the tool, you're able to bring profound self-awareness on the way you work. You'll be able to pinpoint my achiever, I need to have my list and be checking off all the different tasks. Or I have the strength of learner. I'm a person that thrives when I'm always learning on a regular basis. There are 34 strengths. And we all different, different people have different sets of strengths. It takes 1 in 33 million people to find 2 people with the same top 5 in the same order.
So, in that
Right?
list of strengths that one identifies in an assessment, are they immutable? Meaning, if as a college freshman I identify those strengths, are they the same strengths I would have as an older person?
Absolutely. My own strengths are from 2006. And here we are in 2025, and they're the same strengths. The strengths are enduring. They don't really fluctuate in the top 10. They fluctuate in the top 10, but when it comes to 11th, 12th, all the way to 34th, they really stay pretty stable, because the strengths or themes of talent are also neurological patterns. So by
Okay.
the time we're 16, we're developed neurologically enough, and we remain pretty consistent for the rest of our lives, at least for as long as this research has been alive. That is the
Okay.
case. So
Well,
you take
help
it
us
once in a
understand
lifetime.
now. I am proving myself to be ignorant, so help me and others understand the value add or the way students would use the results of one of these assessments.
For example, I've been serving the University of Incarnate Word for
Hmm.
this is going to be my 6th year. And there is this amazing program of interior design that students actually come in a cohort. The same cohort that starts as freshmen continues as sophomore, juniors, and seniors. That's the way the program works. And my client, Dr. Diana Allison, who is the director of the program and an advisor, she has hired me to administer access codes on freshman students. And we have partnered together for the last few years to customize curriculum 3 times for freshmen throughout the first semester through the fall semester. So we have 3 touch points in the fall semester of professional training on how to use the tool. And for sophomores, they don't have to take it again. But for sophomores, we have 2 classes, for example, in their
But
second
then,
year,
how do they
right?
use the results? How do they use the
They use the
findings?
results by becoming aware of how they work,
Hmm.
right? And be able to pinpoint their strengths as they go through their college experience. And that gives them a lot of self-awareness of what works for them. So they're able to navigate college with that awareness and a lot more efficiently, right? So
Okay.
for example, I am a person who has empathy, input, and learner in top 5, right? So had I known in college that I thrive with my input to do a lot of research, I wouldn't have hesitated. I would have majored immediately, which I eventually did in the liberal arts, because I really enjoy the process of doing research with my input strength. I am a person that likes to go deep. And my learner strength, I am a person who thrives in the regular educational system. My neurodiversity thrives in the system. I'm very lucky
Hmm.
that way. So
And
I've
you learned that only after you attended school. And
Absolutely. I was
right.
already working, had been working for several years. So, like, the reaction that most people have at the workplace when they
Right.
take the assessment is like, oh, I wish I had known this when I
Right.
was a college student. It would have helped me
Understood.
tremendously navigate that experience.
Okay, Marisa, we have 2 more bullets: strengths-based
Yes.
development.
Yes. Yeah. So, strengths based development, it is a bit counterintuitive to what we consider regular development in the mainstream culture. In mainstream culture, students go to school, they are tested in different subjects, and we grade them, right? And a student gets A's, B's, and C's. What is it that we pay more attention to, their A's or the C's?
Hmm.
I'm asking you.
Well, see, you're asking me, and I know the
Yes.
answer is the A's.
Oh, well,
But go ahead. But go ahead.
well, because you're a strengths-based person, my friend. But but in reality, the majority of people, unfortunately, still pay attention to the C's. It's still
Uh-huh.
like, oh, we have to fix, right? Like
Right.
weakness fixing. So you're not
Right.
good at these subjects. We have to
Yep.
send you to tutoring for these
Right.
subjects, right?
Hmm.
And the workplace is no different. We have performance evaluations, right? Every 6 months, every
Uh-huh.
year, and all we do all these great things, but then we're given these feedback or these opportunities for growth,
Uh-huh.
right? Like these are the 2 things you don't do well, and you need to work on that, right?
Oh,
So
that sounds so familiar. But go ahead,
I'm
keep going.
telling you. Well, that is mainstream, right? In
Uh-huh.
in the mainstream, we think that by fixing weaknesses, right?
Uh-huh.
When we think of strengths, people go, "Oh, yeah, strengths and weaknesses." Well, not necessarily. That's another myth. In the world, in strengths-based development, we are not looking to fix weaknesses. We leave our lesser talents, we don't even call them weaknesses, but those at the bottom of our report, we call them lesser talents. We leave them alone because there is absolutely no potential in our lesser talents. According to Gallup's research on excellence, all the potential resides in our areas of strength, in our areas of talent, on what we do already pretty well. So
Hmm.
when we approach life, invest our time in becoming better at what we already do best, we become superstars,
Yeah. Well, we say
right?
play to your strengths, right?
Exactly. But yeah,
And
and
the
don't you
thought
worry
came to
about your
mind was
weaknesses.
walking on the sunny side of the street. All right, strength-based development. When you say development, what do you mean by development?
We mean by different interventions such as professional training, workshops, coaching exercises, right? At the workplace, our hope is that all people managers become aware of strengths, use their strengths to manage their teams, and use strengths to have those one-on-one conversations with their employees. And in universities, is no different.
Well, let's talk about
And
students specifically.
yes.
How would a university, be it a faculty member or the various student support systems at universities, how would they interplay or interject strengths-based development?
I think, in my humble opinion, it should be by becoming strengths based organizations themselves.
Go ahead.
So, universities and junior colleges are the cradle of our workforce development, right? This is where people that go to college, whether it's junior college programs, 4 year degrees, you name it, is to prepare you technically to join the workforce, right? And become a productive member of society. So, in my opinion, universities and colleges should be strengths based organizations in which, from the president, provost, and deans, they are a strengths based team and they use strengths with each other as a team, and to see the university and the junior college as an employer as well. So, not only at administrator leadership level, faculty level, um, quite frankly, the leaders and administrators are priority. The students in tandem are priority, but very soon after, we also need to strengths find, as we affectionately say, specifically advisors, career services, staff of university and junior colleges, because the university is also an employer. And this is a very important component of that's why, is from within, right? If universities become strengths based organizations in
Mm-hmm.
which managers at all levels, whether it's a faculty member or a dean or
Mm-hmm.
a staff person who has direct reports, who uses strengths to work
Well,
with their peers, with
Marissa.
staffers and students, then you have that holistic approach with everyone becoming strengths based.
Okay, I understand what you mean. It all runs downhill. But I'm a classroom faculty member. You mentioned A's and C's before. What
Yes.
instruction, what encouragement, or what direction would you give me so that I used grading in a strengths-based way?
So I wouldn't say that is grading. I was using that as an example of how in
Okay.
mainstream culture we look at disease, we look at our weaknesses and try to fix them. But in strengths based development, we use our strengths. We adopt strengths as part of our common language, and we use our strengths to preface our conversations and to communicate with one another. So, as faculty member, the first thing that I would respectfully recommend is that you take your StrengthsFinder assessment and you become fully aware of your top 5 strengths and how you manifest them as a faculty member in
Mm-hmm.
relationship to your students, right? And
Oh.
that you do the same with your students, that you bring your students' top 5 strengths to the forefront of your conversation as you work with them. So, as you develop that relationship of mentorship and you teach, you have awareness of strengths. You use strengths as a talent development tool in your classroom as a faculty member, but hopefully you also use it with any staffers at the university that you work with, and you can see the top 5 strengths of that amazing administrative assistant that
Okay.
runs the department,
Okay.
right? And the dean and the president and the students, so that we're all using this talent development tool to
Mm-hmm.
make the university exemplar as an
Mm-hmm.
employer.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can we expect our for us as universities to produce exemplary and successful workers if
Mm-hmm.
we ourselves as an organization, as an employer, we don't have those levels of employee
Now let's
engagement
talk
and
about
career
what you
growth?
do. Let's talk about what you do. All right. So we mentioned students, faculty, administrators, and others within a uh, institution of higher education environment. What do you do differently at each of those, or for those different audiences, those different groups of people?
I customize the workshops, the solutions. My solutions are usually a combination of workshops and coaching exercises. And I customize it for the different audiences. At the end of the day, they all work for the same university. And we're, even myself as a contractor, as a consultant for my clients, we are all here because of the mission of the university, right? So I customize the solutions to the presidents and his team of provost and deans for their needs, for their talent development needs as a team and as
Mm-hmm.
professionals. I customize it for the faculty members. I customize it for the different teams that work in the university. Staffers are
Mm-hmm.
very important. And I customize it for the students. And I work with the faculty and the staff members when,
Mm-hmm.
of course, staff members run all these incredible programs for students, right? So they
Well, that's
also
great.
interact. um, so our goal is to implement StrengthsFinder as part of the common language of the organization and
Mm-hmm.
to teach the university. It's called university because it's a little universe, right? And so we can make it all strengths based. Then we're all going to be focused on what everyone does best, and
Mm-hmm.
that is how we function. And we
We
bring those
have two
strengths
minutes
together.
remaining. You want to touch
Yes.
implementing strengths,
Well, I have
or did
already
we touch
briefly
that?
shared. Yeah, I think I have already talked about that. And that's really my point because I came to the university, serving universities and colleges first in workforce development for specific students that needed soft skills, career management, social justice. And then I started being hired to partner with faculty members and to customize for their students. And then I've been also hired to serve the president, the provost, and the deans and facilitate for them at that level and other groups, staff members of the university. So, in my opinion, everyone at the university should be strengths based. They should become strengths based organizations and become exemplar as employers and therefore continue their excellence journey as researchers and educators.
Okay, Marisa, we've covered a lot of topics a lot very quickly, and you have greater depth than perhaps any of us could grasp at this moment. So, would you be able to give us a quick takeaway you would like us to have?
My takeaway when it comes to the higher ed industry and sector is that I encourage universities and junior colleges to continue becoming strengths based organizations and looking at strengths not only for students, absolutely keep implementing it on students. Reach out to a Gallup certified strengths coach who can help you come up with the solutions, but also consider yourselves employers because you are employers. You are also organizations that have all these different levels of talent that needs to be developed, and there is so much potential. So I hope that not only for students but for leaders, administrators, staff members, and faculty, that everyone leverages the opportunity to use their strengths and bring their best to work and to study every day.
And if people want to know more, how do they contact you?
Absolutely. My website is www.interculturaltalent.com, all one word. My email, it's right there on the screen. It's my first name, Marisa with one S, at the same domain. And I'm also on LinkedIn. We'll love to hear from your audience. We'll love to hear from anyone who has any thoughts or questions. And I want to thank you as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for having me and engaging in this conversation. I hope I made sense.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Marisa Ortiz is principal consultant for Intercultural Talent LLC, and she's located in San Antonio. I'm David Johnson of Transform Ed Consulting, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my friend and colleague, Cassandra Williams, who is the brains behind Educational Innovation 360 Degrees. Thank you for being with us this evening, and see you next time.
All good.
Well, I hope it disconnected. All right. I'll write you a message tomorrow and give
Yeah,
you some further information. And right now, I've got a client I've got to see. All right,
right
Marisa,
on.
thanks very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Talk to you soon. Bye
Bye.
bye.